What's up, friends? The From the Captain's Quarters podcast is brought to you by Apeiron Northfield's brand new website. You got to go and check it out. ApeironNorthfields.com. That's APEIRON Northfields.com. Their complete line of smokables, edibles, tinctures, and topicals. You got to check it all out. You want your CBD products at high quality? That's what they do. ApeironNorthfields.com is the website once again. The show is also brought to you by Captain Coop's Beard Company for your beard products. Keep your beard badass at CaptainCoops.com. Also, for all of our CBD body products, whether it's body butter, body lotion, or our ink balm for all you tattooed freaks out there like myself. And everybody's favorite, our Tortuga personal lubricant. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. CaptainCoops.com. Use the promo code podcast at checkout and get 10% off your first order. CaptainCoops.com. It's another one of those stories that starts out this one night in Nashville, and it all seems to, I don't know, some sort of weird gravitational pull about Old Red, because Andrew Bone is on the program today, and another fella that I met our last night in Nashville back in January. We were out. If you listen to basically the last 3 or 4 podcasts, you've kind of heard this story. But Nicole and I are out. We went to see my buddy Warren Garrett, who was there, and we met Garrett Spear while we were there, and we met Josh Gallagher while we were there, and we met Andrew Bone while we were there. And like I'm so happy with myself that I remember meeting everybody. But like the context of the conversation after the credit card got put on the table at Old Red, and that's like the instant key. Like every time you set your can down and it goes tink, they just bring you another one. I'm glad that Andrew found my card because we had exchanged information, and he is on the show now and from Nashville. How you doing, my friend?
I'm well. Thank you for having me.
You know, it's such a cool town that you reside in a community that you get to be a part of, and the fascinating thing for me in talking to you is there's kind of like a painted picture of those who move to Nashville and for what purpose. You know, it's the person that is the front man or the front woman who wants to be the superstar, to be in the spotlight, and to become like, you know, the next Garth or the next Blake Shelton or the next whomever. And what I realized down there is that it's not just, you know, the singers and the songwriters there, the amount of talented musicians that are in Nashville and how important they are to the, you know, to the machine that is Nashville. And that's kind of where you come in, you know, being a drummer and being a producer and being, you know, kind of an instrumentalist of all shapes and sizes. Like, what was the draw for you? Because you're a Kansas City guy. Like, what was the draw for you that was like that rang the bell for Nashville to be the place that you decided to make your move to?
Well, it was honestly a choice between New York, Los Angeles, or Nashville. I love New York. I'm not one of those. I love New York, but I could never live there. No, I could totally live there tomorrow. But it was New York, LA, or Nashville, and Nashville was closer and cheaper, really. And I didn't know anything about country music, but I am so grateful I ended up here because you used the word community just a second ago, and it is honestly a community. I couldn't even tell you just the drummer circle of friends that I have on a group chat every week is insane. And so I'm very grateful for that. But that is why Nashville, because it was cheap. But I wanted to be a rock star when I was a kid. And I am one of the few people I've ever met that kind of knew when I was really young, like, oh yeah, I want to be in Kiss.
Yeah.
And like, so by age 15, like I kind of already knew what the rest of my life was gonna be roughly. And it's obviously been nothing like that, but I didn't have to go, I don't know what I want to do with my life at any point in my life. I always knew this is what I wanted to do. So that's that. And I ended up in Nashville, and I am so grateful because I have such a great community of friends,
Mhm.
and I have gained an appreciation for a style of music, an entire slice of American musical heritage that I never had any introduction to prior,
Yeah.
and I have grown to appreciate so much. So I'm so glad I'm here.
Well, I want to take you back to the to being 15 a little bit because I think that's a very
Mhm.
interesting to be at that age because I slightly remember 15. A few slices, bits and pieces of of being 15. On that cusp of getting your driver's license and the freedom that comes on with almost that transitional age where you're a kid, but you're dabbling in this world of adulthood and this world of freedom where you get your license and then you start to be able to explore more, get outside of your 3 or 4 block radius where you live. But to
Mhm.
be at that age, and maybe it hasn't gone according to 15-year-old dream design, taking over, the kit for Kiss, but to at least have the forward thinking to have an idea of this is an avenue that I like. Kids like a lot of stuff. I thought I was gonna, go play at Notre Dame. I was gonna play, college football at Notre Dame because I'm Irish, and there's really no correlation there, by the way. My
Me
grandfather was
too.
like, yeah, go to Notre Dame. They're all Irish there. But you have kind of these not pipe dreams, but I want to be a firefighter. But a lot of the times you're just kind of trying to figure out life. You're still learning how to talk to girls, and you're like, But what is it like being 15? Like, what is the surroundings around you with like your friend group when you're like, no, like this is my jam, and this is what I'm going to pursue.
Well, I mean, I was starting a really crappy rock band. Uh, I still talk to those guys. They're all friends of mine. I have the posters up in my studio, um, still from that time, but I didn't think about it that much.
Hmm.
Like, it was just so inevitable that there really wasn't an alternative. Like all of the guys in that band, I'm still friends with. I talk to occasionally, but like we were doing shows that I booked because I wanted to make it happen before we had driver's license
Hmm.
or driver's licenses. But that was just inevitable, and they would all say back then, like, this is fun, but Andrew's going to do this forever. And it had nothing to do with me being any better
Hmm.
than they are at their respective instruments. It's just, I didn't, I just kind of had that drive and just wanted to.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, those were my peer groups, and I was into super nerdy stuff as well. But it was always, yeah, I'm just gonna go play drums. I don't
Yeah.
know how, but I'm just gonna go play drums
did
forever. So
were there drummers that you mimicked or specific styles that you look up to? Obviously, you mentioned Kiss. Were there
yeah,
like because obviously there's across the board a million different styles of drumming.
yeah.
You can make it sound the same sometimes, but different looks, different feels. Were there a handful of select drummers that you were like, yeah, I like the way he does that, or like the way she does that?
Oh yeah, I was super into metal, like I
Mm,
still am. So like Slipknot, Joey Jordison,
mm,
rest in peace.
yeah.
And uh, I've loved Disturbed and Linkin Park and all of these guys that are kind of on the softer side and then really progressed into like really brutal metal stuff. And so I loved all of that. I mean, I was really into fast and double kick and
Mm,
thrashy stuff, but I also, I mean, I was in academia, scholastically. I was in, the marching band and the jazz band in school. So I had access to all of that, and I did come up that way, and I am very very grateful for that. But yeah, I was coming home and just trying to play the most complicated stuff I could play as
mm,
fast as I could play it, like anybody else.
yeah.
And I would have been. a teenager around that age in the first handful of years of YouTube.
Hmm.
Like right at that age, it just lined up. So, like, I remember discovering music videos for bands that I liked. Like, I discovered my first Slipknot song via music video on, I think, AOL music player or something like that. It wasn't AIM or anything like that. It was
Right.
just like, it was pre YouTube. It was the precursor to YouTube, and but it like changed my world. And so, and I just, and, it's funny. I'm 30, and I just went. I flew myself to Iowa to go see Slipknot this past September. Amazing.
Yeah.
Like, I was sober, and like the entire band is sober,
Hmm.
and it was still just unbelievable. And so it's still it's funny after all these years, but they're still great. So I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen Slipknot a couple times live and real close up. From side stage to being real up front. I mean, there is it's tough to and nobody maybe can but my brain tries to find a way to make
Mm-hmm.
correlating patterns between different genres of music. Slipknot almost exists in its own world because they're metal, but there's so many different elements of it. I mean, who has how many bands are like, oh yeah, put the guy with the kegs, put him
Yeah.
on a lift and let him just bang shit against a keg, but it feels like there is that country music has evolved from the drummer being kind of just the pace keeper, very
Mm-hmm.
soft, not flash, Charlie Watts esque,
Mm-hmm.
type of drumming to now I feel like you do have more. There is more show. There is more of that double kick. There is more of the larger kits, set up on the stage where that maybe wasn't the case. Obviously, not in country music's infancy when it was and western, but even
Yeah.
through the '80s and into the '90s, maybe started that escalation. But it seems like as of late, as country has become more open to introducing itself to different genres, whether that is more of a heavy, uh, more pounding, bass line and drums, but there's hip hop elements in it now. There's all these different things where Slipknot kind of has that too, and they've kind of had that for their entire existence. There's dabs of a whole lot of different things that are kind of all melted into one, and minus the masks. I mean, I'm not saying they're going on tour. They're not going to be at Stagecoach this weekend, but there's it's just the evolution of country music. I think maybe I'm not speaking for you, but maybe has lended itself more to this being more palatable as like I don't have to just for the whole set.
Well, I mean, there are two parts to that. There's a beauty in that simplicity.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't get asked to do a lot of that anymore. I did a couple of years ago to where I was doing gigs with singers that were doing really classic repertoire.
Hmm.
And it's like songs I wouldn't even know, but it would be like, hey man, Wayland Disco, this is the tempo. And I knew what a Wayland Disco was and that sort of thing. And there's just a very, and there's going to be a pause at the end of the verse or the end of the chorus or a stop. Like it's just inherent kind of in the style.
Hmm.
And there's art to all of that. And I'm really grateful that I got to do that. I love kind of flexing that muscle when I get to do that. But then, like what Morgan Wallen and Hardy are doing right now in country music is balls to the wall
Yeah.
rock and roll, basically. And so right now the trend is either that or super hip hop or super pop,
Hmm.
um, and I don't disparage either. I mean, I just happen to be a fan of like, wow. I mean, if Jerry Rowe is the drummer that actually plays on all those records for Hardy and
Hmm.
Wallen and everything that Big Loud Records does, but I'm like, if that's where it's going, fantastic. And so Josh is doing a lot of that.
Yeah.
And you met Josh and you saw the show that we did, and it's it's heavy.
Yeah.
And I just played on 2 songs on Josh's upcoming record. I don't even know when it's coming out. But they're a double kick on both songs. And it like that wasn't even my idea. It
Yeah.
was like, do we want to go here? And he said, yeah, let's go here. I'm like, all right, well then let's go.
Do
And
you,
so it does come full circle in a way.
That's cool though, and I think and congratulations, Josh. Just had the baby. Was a
Yeah.
couple weeks ago. So congratulations to them. I know that always adds
Yeah.
a fun element into life and experience. But it's there's so much. It feels like there's freedom, and especially with a guy like Josh, who I think in having a conversation with him, really is like I want to make the music that I want to make. I want it to
Hmm.
sound the way I want it to sound. I want it to have the attitude that it has. So I imagine for you to find a guy, to find a great friend and also fellow musician who really has an understanding of where his wheelhouse is. And it also happens to be something that you're like, yo, this is I'll play everything. I'll play
Hmm.
what needs to be played, but it's really super cool that I get to to kind of dabble in this heavier element, even though obviously contextually speaking, it's not quite Slipknot, but it's jamming, man. It's heavy.
It is, and I'm grateful. It is being a sideman, and especially for as long as I've been doing this. I've been in Nashville for 10 years,
Mm.
making a living doing this, and there are guys who've been doing it for 20, 40 years longer than me that are laughing at me. But I've been here long enough. Like I think it was last weekend, I went out with a kid that was 23. We went and we did a couple of shows down in Georgia, and this kid was 23 but sounded like Waylon
Mm.
and had classic country songs, just great, beautiful. And we were driving home after the show, was coming back to Nashville. He's like, "Hey man, my girlfriend is a pop singer. Um, you know anything about that world?" I'm like, "Yeah. What's going on?" And he's like, "Yeah, she kind of needs a drummer next week." And so I'm like literally doing really traditional country into radio pop
Wow.
in a week's time. But and all of that's fun. But you said something about Josh being a friend, and that is the thing I tell people, because Josh isn't the biggest name in country music right now.
Mm-hmm.
Fine, but he's my neighbor, and he's been one of my best friends for like 5 or 6 years. And he would yell at me for saying something like that. He would probably tell me I'm being dumb, because that's how he shows affection.
Yes.
But like he does ask me, he's like, "Hey man, can you come watch the kid for a second?" And "Hey man, can I stop by and borrow the lawnmower and all that?" That sort of thing. So we're genuine friends, and for that to be my, in air quotes, boss, that's, I couldn't ask for more. I mean, like, and musically, I can do pretty much whatever I want, and it leans towards the heavier side anyway. So like, this is as close in my adult life. This is as close to that 15-year-old dream as I could have gotten.
Yeah.
I'm in that band. Like, I don't have to be famous, which is great, because I have no desire to be famous. Um, but I can musically do pretty much exactly what I always wanted to do. It can, I can pay my mortgage,
Mm.
and it's with some of my very best friends in the world, and so I am super grateful.
You talk about not wanting to be to be famous, but
Hmm.
what is having talked to a lot of lead singers on this show and just in general over 20 years in radio, because they're always the ones that that the label guy or the manager is like, I mean, you got to make sure you talk to so and so. That's that's the face of the band. But from your seat, from your perspective, like how much their studio, obviously there's playing shows in front of audiences of all sizes. Like where do you feel like the most alive? Or is it both? I mean, obviously it can be both. If you're in a studio producing something, or if you're in a studio laying down tracks for something, or you're behind the kit in front of a great crowd and there's just a lot of energy. Like, where do you feel like, man, this is where, yeah, I'm paying my mortgage, but I mean, nothing
Yeah.
about this sucks.
So in the studio, and like all side musicians kind of in the back of their minds go, oh yeah, I'd love to get into studio work someday. Like it's this binary switch, like you stop doing shows and then all you do is show up at a recording studio every day.
Yeah.
That's no longer the case with the way the industry is.
Yeah.
But I have recently had this massive uptick in studio work, whether I've just been playing drums for other people or producing stuff myself, which is an aspiration of mine. I really want to contribute more to the music than just banging on stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But so that's great. That is, to answer your question, that is a super great feeling to make the producer happy, to make the artist happy if you're producing something yourself, and that moment of like, whoa, that's better than I thought it could be. That's a beautiful feeling.
Mm-hmm.
However, I got into the, I make no bones about it, no pun intended. To be, I got into this business to be a rock star.
Mm-hmm.
So I, yeah, if you put a couple thousand people in front of me and I get to go bang on stuff, yeah, that's why I'm in this business. The rest is fun and great and massively fulfilling, but the lights go down on the stage and the crowd starts to scream. Yeah, even if I'm not the guy on the front of the stage, don't care. So
you mentioned a little earlier about kind of the network of drummers that you converse with and you talk to on a regular basis down there. Like, what are those conversations like? Is there idea bouncing, like when you have a normal conversation with somebody who's kind of fitting that same position that you're in right now? Like, what do you guys talk about? Is there a tips and tricks, or play this venue, watch the side of the stage on this venue? Like, what are those conversations like when you talk to other drummers down there?
we're usually just making jokes at each other's expense, but
Fair enough, makes sense.
as all group chats amongst dudes go.
Yeah.
But it really is more poking fun and kind of sharing, and man, I was here and I was at this venue and everything was broken and I just had to deal with it. And then it's 10 other guys going, yeah, I've been there too and everything was broken and we just kind of had to deal with it. Rarely do uh, rarely do I get together anymore and talk about, the tips and tricks on success. Now we're just like, what are you doing? I'm doing this. You got any free time? No, me neither. All right, great. And that's fantastic. Occasionally, we will talk about like the state of the industry, because that's very interesting. With okay, this person has 4 million people watching their TikToks, and they're opening for Blake Shelton. I'm just making this up, but like, okay, they're opening for Blake Shelton at this massive amphitheater, and they had 4 million people watch their last TikTok video. But they're gonna pay you like $100 to show up and do everything, which is just the peanuts.
Yeah.
And what do we do? And do you take it for exposure bucks, or what do you do? And so there's a lot of that right now, especially since they're all peers of mine, so we're all 28 to 35, somewhere in there. So, and we're no longer 22-year-olds, 23-year-olds trying to make a living. Now some of us have families, and
Right.
all of us have mortgages and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's a very interesting thing. So that's what a lot of that looks like, and just poking fun at each other at the same time.
How much is that? You mentioned TikTok and before alluded to the pre YouTube educational music video sessions back in the day. How much has that just in your time in the industry altered the way, I don't want to say business is done, but kind of. I mean, as you mentioned, someone gets discovered, on a 15 to 30-second TikTok video, and next thing you know, here they are plunged in the front of the Blake Shelton's P1 fan base out there. There's a great element of discovery, which I think is fantastic, that you do have this avenue for undiscovered talent, whether that's a singer, whether it's a drummer, whether it's whatever, somebody, a magician. But
Mhm.
it's weird because I feel like you're a guy who kind of made the move, did the grind, did the cutting your teeth thing, the old school ish way of doing it, where this avenue seems like there can be a real fast track to to some level of success without that grind and maybe without that needed experience. Like your perspective on how social media has altered the way that even a guy like you, kind of functions in a society down in Nashville.
Well, I mean, I can start by saying I have Instagram, and I do my very, very best to stay off of it as much as possible. I'll still post and all of that,
Right.
and I'm as addicted as anybody else. Don't get
Mm.
me wrong. I'm not preaching, but I have no other social media. Like I no TikTok, no Facebook, no. I I mean, I watch YouTube like crazy, but
Right.
I don't post. I don't make YouTube videos. I don't make content as
Mm.
a rule. So I am, you're asking me, and I run the risk of sounding really strongly opinionated about it. But it's fascinating. I as a rule don't make content.
Mm-hmm.
I try to do cool stuff, and if there's a picture or a video of it, great. But that is my method of doing things.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't have to be. There's a guy on TikTok that I don't know his name. I don't care. I recognize him, but he plays. He takes $10 Goodwill drum kits, lights them on fire, dumps paint on them and confetti and stuff. Couple million people watch every one of his TikToks,
Mm.
and I go, why? I would rather because what happens when TikTok goes away? Like, what does that guy do? Like, I'm in this forever, so I'm kind of more focused on being a nice guy and being really good at what I do. And I will never be the greatest drummer. I will never move the needle on great drumming, and that was never an aspiration. Again, just got into it to be a rock star,
Mm.
but with social media, it's very interesting. I have to be careful how I say this, but
Phraseology, I believe it's called
yeah,
phraseology.
I like that. Yeah, I had the editor in chief of one of the predominant drum publications out there introduce me to the artist and repertoire person for a major drum company that is headquartered in Nashville.
Mm.
Now, I already knew these people personally, but this editor introduced me to these people and said, I just saw Andrew play. Coincidentally, it was with Josh.
Mm.
He's like, just watched him on the main stage of wherever we were. Why is he not with this company? Why is he not an endorsed artist with you guys? And I did not know this was happening. I did not ask him to do this. This just kind of jumped out of nowhere. And I
Yeah.
went, that was the professional equivalent of being in a bar and, hey man, my friend over there thinks you're really cute. He wants to talk to you. I was just like, I was paralyzed. But he said that, and this A&R person who I know personally, um, he very politely said, "Well, Andrew's not quite a big shot yet, but when he is, we'll be ready for him." And that's fantastic.
Mm.
That was very polite. I completely understand. I wasn't asking for anything. But I've been doing this professionally for 10 years. And this company has signed 3 or 4 people in the past quarter that professionally make YouTube videos.
Hmm.
And so, to answer your question, there's that avenue.
Yeah.
You know, it's to, for me, it's just about the game you want to play. If you want to sit in a room with lights and cameras and play drums or play whatever instrument and create content, there's clearly an avenue for success there. If that's, I just am not personally interested in that.
Yeah.
So, and I try not to be disparaging about it. I can sound like a grumpy old man sometimes, but I try not to be disparaging about it. John Mayer actually just said in an interview a couple of weeks ago. He's like, I don't want to play the TikTok game. He's like, there's nothing wrong with it. I'm going to choose to sit this one out because I don't think I'm good at it. And I don't want to make a bunch of TikToks to promote a record because somebody says I have to. He's like, I'm not really good at it. I don't want to. Whatever the thing is that comes after TikTok, I'll jump back in. And I'm like, great, fantastic. Like again, I have a recording studio in my home where I do work and I play drums on Josh's new record in my house. Like, it's beautiful, that the technology. And I bought new drum microphones, and I had a picture of the old drum microphones for the studio and the new drum microphones for the studio, and the conventional wisdom, or but not conventional, but contemporary wisdom would say, make a video. Mm-hmm. Make a video doing an A/B comparison and put it on YouTube or put it on TikTok. And I'm like, I don't care. Like, I bought new microphones. I'm gonna use the new ones because that's why I bought them. Yeah. I don't need to create this stuff that's disposable. I don't need to make this content. So I just try and do cool stuff and hope people pay attention, and it seems to be working so far. So
no, I think that there is still, I think both avenues are still viable, and that's a good thing.
I agree.
Not being an advocate for either one necessarily in my jobs, other jobs, whatever, between marketing for an off-road company and having a beard company, there does have to be a level of lifestyle branding that we do. But I recall a conversation. We were down in Moab, Utah for Easter Jeep Safari just a couple of weeks ago, and we're at this really cool place. It's like it's called Grandpa's Garage. It's like, not like, oh, right. It's the guy that's like lived in Moab for 1,000 years, because he's like 1,000 years old, but just kind of over the course of time became this place where if your shit broke down, like, you took it to Grandpa's, you could use his tools, and then it, like a couple decades ago, become this like underground place where Jeep or Terraflex, the major brands would be like, oh yeah, we're going to sponsor a night here at Grandpa's Garage, because there's a to-do every night down there. So we're at Grandpa's Garage, and we're just kind of mingling with some of our brand partners and other Jeep enthusiasts while we're down there, and a major intricate player in the off-road automotive industry. This is, again, phraseology.
Phraseology.
We're in a conversation with him and a couple guys that are just starting a light company, and guys that have like suspension companies. We're just kind of like listening to him. He's like the old wise man. And he was like, people come up to me and ask me for product or endorsement or a story. And the thing that this new generation of off-road enthusiasts will always bring up is I have 25,000 followers on Instagram. I have 1.5 million followers on TikTok. And here is a man who has an incredible amount of influence in this industry. Like to the point he calls whoever and just like things happen or don't happen. And he said explicitly, I don't give a shit how many followers you have. He's like, if I know that you can go out and you're going to take my product or you're going to take, a client's product and you're going to actually go and live this. You're going to go and put this to the test. You are the person I want. If you are coming at me with your influencer numbers and here are the other people that give me free shit, and here's my vehicle, here's the toy hauler that we haul it in, here's my camera crew that comes with me, here's the Sprinter van that follows that camera crew. He's like, I may be old school, but I'm still the principal. And so I liken it to there still being avenues to success in industries that doesn't involve having to have millions of followers on Instagram. Is it nice? Yes. For my brand, for my company, it would be fantastic if we had something that hit and we had 3.5 million views, but not because I want to be somebody who puts together TikTok videos all the time, because I hope that then exposes my brand, product, whatever, to more people. Because I want, that exposure. But that's not my life. It's not, man, I can't imagine spending as much time. I mean, I do put together some TikToks and I do put together some, some real stuff. But if that shit takes me longer than like 10 minutes, like I'm done. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I wonder how they do the squiggly with the thingy and where's the pretty girls that dance in the background? Do you have to pay them or is it you just give them some monster and they're there? Like, I don't understand. But it's all about knowing that there's more than this new fancy way, the new shiny object of like, if you can get this many followers, you can get this many people to view your thing, then you have this all access pass, the golden buzzer to get whatever you want. Like, still think there's a value to just going out and living it and experience it and cutting your teeth on whatever it is that you happen to be passionate about.
I completely agree. There is absolute merit, and I completely understand, the previously not aforementioned drum company passing, and I completely understand why somebody with 1 million followers sells a lot of drums. I get it. I totally get it. Like, why would you give me drums at a significant discount when I don't have the power to sell drums at full price in a store with my name recognition?
Right.
Totally understand. Completely understand. Just not the world I'm in. Like, I still play those drums. I still own, I think, 5 kits that they make. I tour with them. It's fine. It's a non-issue. If it got to a point where I were, a little more on the level they were looking, like I'm flying to Florida in 2 weeks, and because I'm flying, there are going to be drums there. I'm at the mercy of whatever the production company rents for me, and I sent them, of course, what I would like. But if I were with a company, I would have a little bit more pull to call somebody at the company and say, what do you just have sitting around in a storage shed, or what's sitting in a music store that isn't selling that you can just bring there for me? And that's where that comes in handy. But to the point of your story of Grandpa's garage, Grandpa doesn't care about how many followers you have, and doesn't have to, because he has established himself as being really, really good at what he does. And I am trying. I mean, I'm not super young anymore, but I'm still very young. I had coffee and a chat with a friend of mine that's a drummer and 20 years my senior and been doing this forever, and we were laughing because I was realizing, like, I know I'm kind of complaining about this, that, or the other thing, and I'm sure you were complaining about the same thing 20 years ago. He goes, "Yep."
Hmm.
It's a little different now. But it's the same thing. But yeah, I'm very interested, and I'm going to do this forever. So um, I don't mind creating content. I certainly don't mind sharing something. Like I had a record. I think honestly, I think this is the first full length record I've ever produced,
Hmm.
and I produced, played drums on it, sang all the harmonies, engineered, mixed the whole thing. I did everything for this record, and it took years because the singer just sat on it forever. And it's not a commercial thing. Like I don't even have to plug it, um, because this was something that he's a friend, and he, well, I mean, I could say it. His name is Heath Deloach, and he was a songwriter in Nashville, great friend of mine. At a certain point, he had to move back to South Georgia to be a better provider for his family.
Hmm.
I I love him to death for that. But before he left, he came and recorded these songs, and then they just sat for a while, and he finally released it a couple of weeks ago, so it's out, and I'm so happy for it. It will never be a commercial success. Don't care. I'm very, very proud of that work,
Hmm.
and I am still aware though that like, oh, I spent like a couple of years working on this at this point, and posted about it and shared about it. I'm like, oh, those numbers are not what I want them to be for all this work. So
Right.
don't get me wrong. I'm aware. I'm self-aware of that. Sometimes I get, we all get the dopamine when we see, oh, so many people liked your post, whatever. Don't get me wrong. But I don't want to be thinking about it too much.
Right.
Just like you. I mean, I aspire to just be going off the grid, and every once in a while take a picture, and I love that. Good for you, man.
Yeah, it's definitely. It took me many years of living in kind of in a world where I thought that everything had to be. I needed to always be connected. Needed to always have, a Wi-Fi connection or a cellular signal, or, what will I do with my thumb if it doesn't do it? If it says not able to connect, like I really had, which I imagine a lot of people do, and probably to the point where they don't even realize they have it because there is always a Wi-Fi signal. There's always a cell signal where they are. I think experiencing not just that moment of being completely off the grid, self-reliant on the equipment that you have, the people that you have around you, and not the modern amenities of, I don't know, like working toilets or air conditioning or heat if you needed that. But there's also something about seeing a lot of the things that this country has to offer that nobody talks about. That seemed to go, like, we did a trip back in August of last year, in these old Willys Jeeps. It's called Epic Willys Adventure, like 40s and 50s Jeeps. Drivetrain custom to the. Nothing's modernized. There's no. Oh, we threw an air conditioner in this, and some real fancy suspension and an exhaust system. But real old school shit. Again, a lot of off the grid stuff. No highways, no GPS, no nothing. Camping out along the side of the road or on BLM land out west, and you get to experience, like, the first time I went to Idaho, I was like, Idaho is beautiful. Like, it's amazingly beautiful. I didn't see a potato anywhere. Like I
Yeah.
figure, like, we crossed the line, come out of Wyoming, out of the mountains, and we're like, oh my God, there's just going to be like, it's a beautiful part of the country. Obviously it's very rural. There's a lot of farmland, but just some amazing topography and the rivers, and it's this beautiful place. Same thing with Utah. I'd never been to Utah before. I was like, Utah, Mormons,
Right.
But no, I mean, I didn't see one. I probably did, but to get a chance to experience and to see different parts of the country that they are the flyover states. I mean, we've technically Nashville is a flyover state. You know, Wisconsin is definitely a flyover state, but there's
Sure.
so much space and openness that I think when you experience those things and you do get to capture some moments and capture some scenery, and when you're doing cool shit, you get a chance to take pictures of it. Like that's something where it's it's more about trying to tell a story about things that people don't necessarily get a chance to experience. Like, wow, that's really cool. You should go and try to live that. You know, I liken it, as I think I mentioned to you in the open, is to those who, like, you wanted to be a rock star, you wanted to be a drummer, you wanted to like do these things, and you pursued it. I'm sure there were obstacles. I'm sure, you know, nothing ever turns out exactly the way you plan it, especially when you know start planning it at age 15. But you're
Right.
just like, man, you know, when you get out into the public and you get to see people who just, man, they're just miserable. You know, they're getting up and
Yeah.
they're going to a job that they hate, and then they get home and you wonder why you're fucking drinking a 30 rack every night, and you're living for the weekends, and the weekends are the same damn thing, and like, and I say that because I was living that. I was like, oh, like even in radio after 19, 20 years, I'm like, it's super cool, but oh my God, it's the same thing. But when you finally find your passion, and you know, we're lucky enough to know at a young age, like, this is the direction I want to go. When you find that, and you just want to tell people, like, man,
Yeah.
you know, I was 40 or 39 when I got let go from radio, and reestablished like this newfound love of travel and of experience and of, you know, real, you know, being present in the moment and stuff. And you just want to tell people. And I think social media gives you that opportunity to do so, and not trying to do it in a, hey, look at me way, but like, hey, look at this. Like,
Yeah.
man,
Oh,
it's so cool out
I'm
here.
super grateful. I mean, I just got a Dropbox full of photos from a show we did a couple weeks ago. I'm like, that's cool. Of
Yeah.
course, I'm going to post that. You know, I'm absolutely grateful. And like, my dad's an accountant. My dad didn't want to be an accountant.
Hmm.
Uh, you know, but here I am, so he had to get a big boy job. You know, and um, like it in that same breath, like my my parents are young and still in great shape, and it's always been a thing, a dream of his to do. He's like, I want to hike down and camp at the basin of the Grand Canyon.
Hmm.
I'm like, well, then let's go, um, and let's just do it. And you're damn right, I'm going to take pictures while I'm doing that,
Yeah.
and I got no problem with that. So I am not. I don't want to talk. I don't want to sound cynical about social media.
Yeah.
Totally, I use it as much as anybody else. I don't want to live for it. I do want to live, and I don't want it to be the basis of my worth as a professional or as an artist. And you're the same way. Like, you do social media because you have things to market, and there's nothing wrong with marketing that. You do that prior to social media anyway. You know, and that's what all these drum magazines or Jeep magazines or, you know, any of that prior to social media is just the same thing.
Yeah.
We just have it more directly now. So I don't have an issue with that. But again, I was listening to your podcast with Drew, the drum dude.
Mm-hmm.
When he was talking about his products, he's like, oh yeah, I could totally use a catchphrase or do this type of marketing, you know. And he was not naming names, but totally poking fun at Old Spice, which is fair.
Yeah.
They have an amazing marketing campaign. There's nothing wrong with their marketing campaign, and there's nothing wrong with having an amazing marketing campaign. And but I really respect, like, he's like, yeah, I want to make the best quality product. And yes, I will have to market that product, otherwise no one will buy it because no one will know about it.
Yeah.
And that's totally true. And, you know, this pop gig where the guy said, hey, my girlfriend's a pop singer. She goes, cool, what's his Instagram? Not, well, I can just give you his phone number right now. No. I got to see like what he looks like,
Right.
and check his, in air quotes, check his vibes. and
Right.
all of that before. Not it had nothing to do with whether or not I could play the songs.
Hmm.
That was kind of an assumed thing, but that's real, and I don't think there's anything particularly wrong with it. It's just it's very interesting. I
Yeah.
I I'm gonna do it, like, because I just changed out microphones in my studio, not the Tom microphones. I talked about that earlier, but like I changed out other microphones in my studio that greatly improved the quality of the product that I offer. I'm like, whoa, this sounds so much better. I am absolutely going to share that to social media.
Yeah.
Like, this is cool. Listen to this. And it is slightly self promoting, but it's just sharing. Like, it's just sharing. Like, I was doing this anyway.
Hmm.
And now the product that I offer is better. And so here's a subtle letting everyone know, by the way, it sounds better.
Yeah.
But I'm the only one. So I'm very interested in where the world goes. I mean, with social media, I say the same thing. I don't want to do that. Like the drummer for Tim McGraw was famously let go. It's Nashville lore. I don't want to speak ill of him, but he was let go after a bunch of years,
Hmm.
and he was all over social media, and it was bad. It was cringy and awful, and the guy that replaced him does not have social media,
Hmm.
and so after all that time, if you're Tim McGraw and you need somebody because you're replacing somebody at a very high level selling out a bunch of tickets, um, you need somebody who's good enough and professional enough and all of that, and it didn't require social media.
Yeah.
It's actually the same thing with Keith Urban. Like um, Keith's drummer, Chris McHugh, voluntarily said, "Hey, I'm going to stay home more and work in my recording studio more." And Chris McHugh is one of the most recorded drummers in Nashville.
Hmm.
And so, who do you get to replace Chris McHugh? Like,
Right.
those are huge shoes to fill. And Seth Seth Roush was taking that chair. He just recently left for the same reason, to stay home. But like, this is a guy with like 9 kids. Seth has a like, super Catholic family and
Hmm.
bunch of kids. Zero social media, zero.
Yeah.
But just on the basis of his work, and he's amazing. I've seen them play several times, and Seth's just unbelievable. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of, and these guys are several years older than me, but that's kind of where, like, if I'm ever distracted, like you said, if it takes more than 10 minutes, I don't want to do it.
Right.
So I want to be spending as much of my time improving or just doing my job. Like, we play a lot of shows in Nashville. We play a lot of shows.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an ungodly number, and I had to put a fence gate on today. Stuff you do when you have home responsibilities,
Right.
and I don't even have a family. I have a girlfriend, but like I don't have a family, and so I couldn't even imagine having to work on a fence gate, be a dad or a husband, and answer the phone all day, and be making
Yeah. Making TikTok videos.
Yeah, I already had too many calls about, hey man, didn't get your backline request for next week. Oh, sorry. And I didn't send the guy the backline request because he texted me while I was on stage downtown on Broadway. And I'm like, hey man, I'm on stage. Let me call you tomorrow. And then he texted me back like, hey man, just reminding you. I'm like, sorry, working on a fence. Let me stop what I'm doing. I'll text you right now. And like, so I couldn't multiply that by social media. That's all I'm saying. Like,
Well,
I'm still on it, but you strike me as the same way. You're about the quality. I've looked up the beard stuff. I'm really fascinated by that, even though I don't have a beard or tattoos. I'm like, well, I could use the CBD oil
Yeah,
because
man.
I'm achy all the time, and the CBD lube sounds real fun. I don't know
Yeah,
what
it's
the CBD offers. I thought that was funny.
5-star reviews that we'll talk about. We'll talk about those after the show. No, there's
Absolutely.
I think there's something to be said. I want to say about being busy because being busy sounds like you're not being productive. But when you have enough things on your plate, when you are not bursting at the seams where it becomes an overwhelming thing, when it's just it's you feel real good about not only what you're being able to be productive wise when it comes to your career or the passion projects that you have, but when you're like, it's okay to have time to put a gate up or to, my 12-year-old's having a birthday party this weekend, and so we're like,
Awesome.
we got to figure your life out. Like
Right.
we'll have it outside. Oh, it's supposed to rain. Contingency plan. Like, so there's always going to be those things, but if you can allot the appropriate amount of effort into accomplishing those things, like adding more things onto it for the sake of adding more things onto it is what causes people to lose their shit. It's like, I gotta make sure that not only do I put this party together, but I gotta make sure I got the right camera angles so that when the piñata comes out, the light, I don't have that kind of wherewithal because I feel like I haven't perfected it yet, and I probably never will. But there's a fine line between the amount of travel I do, the amount of quality time I get to spend with my girlfriend, the quality time I get to spend with my son, the projects that her and I have together with the CBD products and the beard stuff, and doing this, like I feel good. I used to want to do I'll do the marketing thing, I'll do the beard stuff. I'm gonna do 5 podcasts a week. I'm gonna do a live one every week. I'm gonna then after the live one, I'm gonna cut up clips, and I'm gonna do 15 clips of the show. And it got to the point where I was like 1 o'clock in the morning, having to get up at 4 to get a workout in. And I'm like,
yeah,
what can I do to make sure that every moment is being productive, and the moments that aren't productive are spent doing things that I really enjoy, whether it's going for a walk with the dog and my girlfriend, or whether it's too much is too much for a reason. It's finding the right balance and bringing satisfaction to yourself, and it does not need to be documented necessarily.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. Yeah, there's not enough time in the world. Again, I don't even have a family, and it's wild. Like, I can't. My girlfriend is very, very sweet and very understanding.
Yes.
And she still looks and she's like, "You are worn out." I'm like, "Well, I still have 10 more things to do today," and that's an indication that I need to cut stuff down. And so I do try and do that when I'm at that level to where I'm like, I can't, I have to say no. I have to turn off the phone for a while. I can't have anybody text me. I just need to handle a few things and try and take some time.
But that can be tough, though. I imagine in your position, because not that you're waiting for that call or that moment or that opportunity, but it's like not taking this call. What is that? That call could have been the call that was this call. That there's got to be tough for you.
The weight of that is something I have never heard anybody talk about. We talk about it kind of as peers now, but I've never heard somebody everybody, when you listen to drummer podcasts or music industry podcasts and stuff, everybody's like, "How'd you get that gig?" And I'm like, I wanted the same answers when I was very young, getting into this. I'm like, "Well, how did you get the gig with that? How did somebody call you?" And the answer is almost always, I knew a guy who knew a guy, or I'd worked with somebody prior, and I was good at what I do and not an asshole. It really just be good at what you do and don't be an asshole, and then don't leave. This is the key to success. But the weight of, if I don't say yes, first of all, if I don't go to work, I don't get paid. Period.
Yeah.
As all freelancers do. Even if the best thing I could do for myself is take a morning off, I have this opportunity to go make money. And when you have a fence to build, those are expensive these days.
Yeah.
Um, like, oh, that's another, but you could also take some time and relax. And I will say, uh, all of my decision making is better. My life is so much better, 360 degrees, when I'm not massively overwhelmed. But yes, absolutely, you're worried about, oh, that could be a thing, or man, I would love to do that gig, but this week I'm exhausted and I really can't make it happen.
Mm.
It happened. I was coming back from Georgia, do it last week, and I got a phone call. Hey, we have this private gig in Mississippi. Can you do it? And the money was insane. It was a great opportunity, and I just physically could not get there without a private jet. Like I couldn't make the logistics work,
Right.
and it was 100 text messages back and forth. And I'm like, I have to stop.
Mm-hmm.
I have to just say, I'm sorry. I would love to. You got to find somebody else.
Yeah.
And me a handful of years ago would have said, oh, yeah. No, I'll see if I can rent. I got to know somebody with a private jet, and like that sort of nonsense.
Right.
And it takes years off your life. So yeah, there's a lot of weight. I mean, Josh called me. It's been 5 or 6 years ago now. So like the thing that I call my principal gig, my main gig, being Josh Gallagher, he called me as I was going to bed, um, with my girlfriend at the time. And I don't now my phone doesn't buzz or anything, but my phone at the time did. And so it's in my back pocket. And like, I hope this isn't a family show, but I'll say this politely. She's taking off my belt and my phone rings in my pocket. And at the time, I answered it because who knows,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And I actually said no to him that first night. He's like, hey, I need a drummer right now. Like, I have a gig right now and forgot to hire a drummer. And I got your number from somebody. And I said, no, I can't do that, thankfully, because I would have been in a lot of trouble if I, put my belt back on and gone and played drums all night. But
sorry, I'd love to stay, but I have to go.
yeah, that would have been a problem. But thankfully, he called me, the next day, like, how about this weekend? And of course, the rest is history. But it is in those moments now, all these years later, I would miss that. That would go straight to voicemail.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. But I also have to be really happy with, man, I love Josh. And when I say no to a gig, I get called for 3 more from 3 other people. And I can't be 4 places at once.
Right.
And I'm not even awesome. I'm not the greatest thing since sliced bread. I just have been doing this and have some sort of value to offer. So I never really, that fear diminishes over time. But yeah, I wish me now could tell me 5 years ago, like, yo, man, just take a day off when you need it. Don't answer the phone all the time. It's okay.
Yeah, and there's a youthful, I think, ambition to that too, because you do feel, and I'm guessing for you and for me, I know it was this way, like when you're just kind of getting into something, you feel like you finally got yourself kind of dialed in to where you want to be at the level you want to be at, like you're anticipating that call is going to be extremely valuable. It's going to be, it may not be. It may be,
Yeah.
Josh calling to be like, hey, can I borrow some sugar? Like, I want to make some
Yeah.
Kool-Aid at 11:30 at night because that's the kind of guy I am.
Yeah.
But I love Kool-Aid. I get it. But you almost are like, not that you're willing and wishing your phone to ring,
mm-hmm.
but you are ready when it does, because you're like, this could be the call, this could be the opportunity, this could be the connection that I made at this particular event or this location or this show, that this is coming full circle because you're so geared up for that break, if you will, that thing that you feel like you need to fulfill yourself. And if you're playing it right, and you talked about not being an asshole and doing things the right way and doing it well. Like if you're doing those things, the calls come as you have attested
Hmm.
to. The calls come, and the it seems like for the most part the important ones get answered. And even if they don't get answered, like it doesn't go away because you missed that call or because you didn't, respond to that text or that email right away. The ones that are fulfilling and are opportunistic, they seem to find themselves in your wheelhouse somehow, some way, even if you don't answer it on the first ring.
I 100% agree. This does not only apply to music, but in the case where you're being paranoid about answering your phone, um, if somebody calls you and you can't do a gig and they never call you again, they didn't want you, they just wanted somebody.
Mm-hmm.
I have I am fortunate that I have been doing this long enough that if I can't do something, I typically get a call back. And like you just said, what the stuff that is worthwhile, you will get. If somebody wants you and it is worthwhile, you're gonna get a call even if you can't do the first one. If you miss the first text, and like my phone is on do not disturb 100% of the time.
Hmm.
Like you cannot call me, period. And if you text me, even if it's not on do not disturb, it doesn't vibrate.
Hmm.
Like I have to be looking at my phone and see, oh, someone has texted me. Like and that was a huge jump. But if I don't respond immediately to somebody saying, hey, I need a drummer on Saturday, and I respond, actually, I'm available on Saturday. I would love to do it. Sorry, we found somebody already. Then they didn't really need me.
Right.
Um, Usually, if I don't get back to it, and I'm quick. It's not like my phone is buried in the backyard somewhere. It's on me all the time,
Right.
like it is for everybody. But I just can't deal with it buzzing constantly. And so 100% of the time, like just yesterday, I was on stage. Somebody texted me, hey, are you available? I said, yes, but I'm super busy. Can't talk right now. On stage right now.
Hmm.
No problem. We'll get details later, but you're in. And it wasn't because I responded immediately. I actually, my that was a drummer buddy whom I love and respect. He called me before I had gotten to the venue to go on stage. He's like, hey man, I have this thing in 2 weeks or whatever. Are you available? I said, sure. But then the manager and the musical director were trying to call me while I was on stage. It goes straight to voicemail.
Hmm.
And they text me, and my voicemail says, hey, if you're trying to connect with me and it goes straight to voicemail, text me or leave me a message. I will call you back.
Right.
I'm not ridiculous, but I just can't stop what I'm doing to answer the phone right now. But yeah, that happened literally yesterday, to where something important went straight to voicemail. I got a text message 30 seconds later saying, hey, this is so and so. Just want to reach out when you have a second. Followed up today. It was no big deal. I'm still doing the show.
Yeah.
And I'm flying to South Florida to play 3 songs for a showcase, and the rest of the 72 hours I am there, I will be hanging out on the beach. I mean, life is great, so I am not complaining. And that all happened, and I still didn't have to be like glued to my phone waiting for it to ring, like you were saying. So.
Yeah. I think that a lot of the social media day and age is put a lot of people in that mindset where it has to be instantaneous. If it's not right now, then then you're missing out. And I think you've given examples right there of why that's not true. And the opportunities that are pursuing you, if they're the right ones, they'll come to fruition with or without that immediate answer. So I know you don't have. There's some Josh Gallagher things going on. I know coming up this year. I know you play like a bunch of shows and stuff. Like, what are you most looking forward to as far as like as I don't know if you guys are like in the middle of fourth winter, but it's like the weather here has just been real. It's been cold.
No, it's super warm.
Well,
I was sweating.
Then
actually,
maybe I need to come back down. I need to come back down to Nashville.
You are welcome anytime. When you and I met very, very briefly, and there were beverages involved. So let's do it again next time
Yes.
you're in town, and we'll do it. And we'll still have all of the beverages. We'll just start at a sober
We'll start with
place.
when it's still light out, and we won't get the Garrett's and the Jack Daniels involved as soon.
That makes me laugh. I know Warren's real last name. Garrett is not his last name, and I tease him, and I won't out him. But I totally get it. It doesn't roll off the
Oh,
tongue. And if you
I'm
want to be an
texting him right.
artist,
I'm texting him right now. Like, dude,
absolutely.
I thought we were homies. What's the
Oh,
deal?
it's hysterical. Well, he's had in and out of Nashville a bunch of times, and well, not a bunch. He was here, went back home, then came back, and I said, well, dude, welcome back. He's like, I said, make sure I have your number. And he texted me. He texted me his artist name. And his number didn't change. I'm like, dude, I know your last name. Like, sorry, man, I forgot. So I give him a hard time. But to answer your question, yeah, I'm really excited for this year with Josh. He signed. Actually, I think it was the week you guys did the podcast together. It was all kind of getting worked out legally there, but he just signed new management and new booking, and it's been well overdue. And I'm immediately excited because I play drums with him, but I'm also his production manager and his tour manager. So I handle a lot of the stuff behind the scenes. Aside from his personal financial stuff, I don't mess with any of that. But if we have a show, I'm the dad, they call me. So I've been getting phone calls, so I'm really, really excited about that because, like I said, I mean that's the closest thing to what I wanted to do when I was a kid that I could possibly do, and so I'm super grateful. In the meantime, I made a pact to work on more music in the studio this year. 2021 was a little weird with I was doing a lot of gigs with TikTok stars, and it's very disposable. You do a show, you do a great job, they call you like, hey, here's 10 more dates, and then what dates are they? And then you never get a text back. And you're talking about like management. I'm not even talking about the artist.
Wow.
So very weird. So I've always had a recording studio in my house like a lot of people do, but I really ramped it up, and my whole goal this year is to contribute musically to very good songs beyond just banging on stuff. Really, really do something a little bit more meaningful and a little bit more creative. And I've been very fortunate. I have a couple of things that we're working on. I'm working on with various people that I'm really proud of. Some of the best work I've ever done as a producer and as an engineer and all that. So that's my goal. Is I want to be doing a lot of that in the future, and that's a beautiful thing when you get to be, 50 and you have a family. You can go in and work in the studio for some time, then come home and have dinner with your wife and kids. So yeah, that's where I'm at this year. So I'm really excited to be doing stuff like that, and so I'm very grateful. I'm back in the studio next week with doing some stuff that I'm with some of my other best friends, and I love it when that happens. That's a beautiful thing when, hey man, I'm trying to make a record. And I'm like, I got you, let's go. And they're some of your favorite people, so I'm hoping by the end of the year I have a couple of records under my belt that I'm really proud of. So yeah, and then in the meantime, we're jetting around the world with Josh, drinking beer and being idiots. As we very well do.
Yeah,
while he goes and wears camo. I just got his little boy some camo Crocs to match his old man. So
yeah, that apple is not going to fall very far from that tree. I just got this feeling. He's going to have a beard by the time he's like 6. It's going to be great. Yeah.
Probably, yeah. Awesome. I've also seen Josh without a beard. I got all sorts of dirt on Warren and Josh. I've seen Josh at like 150 pounds with no beard.
Oh man!
And you wouldn't recognize him. It's hysterical.
That's awesome. Hey Andrew, thank you so much, man, for taking some time. I know you went a little over an hour, but great conversation. It's great to get insight and hear your story and pick up on the vibe that you have down there, because I think it's super rad, and it's it's kind of addicting to talk to people who are like, doing their passion and still kind of navigating not perfection, because like I think we both mentioned, like, perfection is an unattainable goal, but like always continuing to grow, always continuing to make progress, personally, professionally, and in your life. So it's been a great conversation. I'm glad that we got a chance to connect, and we will definitely book a return trip down to Nashville, and we'll coordinate accordingly. I'll call you. I'll leave you a voicemail, and then you can call me back, since your phone is always on Do Not Disturb.
That's fantastic. Yeah, if you make your way down, do let me know, and I will we'll show you some bars that are not on Broadway where the beer is $9. We'll get you something more to your style. So
hey, we did spend some time at Live Oak, and
also great.
So we did get
love that place.
We got 450 beers down there, which was great. We got some Busch Lights, and we felt better about life.
Yeah, we'll get you into some divey places, locals only sort of things.
That's my jam.
We'll have a good time.
Awesome, brother. Well, I appreciate the time and the conversation, and we'll definitely have to get you back on here sometime soon, man.
I would love it. Thanks, Coop.
Thank you so much to Andrew Bone for being on the show today, and thank you for listening and being a diligent listener and doing whatever you can to help support the show. Remember, wherever you're listening, whatever podcast platform is your jam, whether it's Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Stitcher or the iHeartRadio app, wherever, make sure you subscribe, make sure you leave a 5-star review, leave a comment, and most importantly, share the podcast with your friends. If you got anything out of this one, or you're like, hey, that was pretty funny, or that was really cool, share it with your friends. That's how we grow the show, and we get to do more cool stuff, which was what life's all about. Thank you so much for listening to the From the Captain's Quarters podcast.